So it's 5 o'clock and I'd like to start the Stanton City Council work session for June 26, 2025. I will now entertain a motion to approve the work session in regular meeting minutes. agenda.
I move to approve the work session and regular meeting agendas as presented.
Thank you, Counselor Overholzer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All righty, Mr. Kesker, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Kesker. Moving on to item 2, we have an introduction of Miss Amanda Leach, the President and CEO of the United Way of Central Shenandoah Valley. Ms. Beauregard.
Yes, so we met with Ms. Leach a few weeks ago. She was introducing herself to us now that United Way from Harrisonburg, Rockingham County is in the valley and they've changed their name recently. So Ms. Leach is here to introduce herself and to talk a little bit about how they plan to expand into our area.
Awesome.
So
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome.
Hey, hi, how are you all?
Wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Good. Thank you for having me. I am excited to be here. It's been really, really wonderful to take on an expansion and also very, very challenging. So these opportunities are fantastic for us. My name is Amanda Leach. I've been with United Way for over 9 years. Just over 3 in the role of president and CEO. We actually just announced our name change about 2.5 weeks ago. So it's still very fresh. If you catch it incorrect on a slide, then you can publicly shame me because I should have gotten it by now. I want to start off by talking a little bit about United Way because I think there's some context for you all to have because we're a different United Way and to give you a little bit of history of kind of what's been going on. The thing that most people know United Way for is workplace campaign and community grants. That has changed significantly over the past 20 years across the entire US network. So I'm going to show you what is our most painful slide, and it is our 10-year campaign history. That orange line at the top is our employee giving. That is reflective of a drastic change in workplace participation in the work that we do at United Way and reflects a kind of a more broad nationwide trend that we've seen. This is United Way network revenue across the entire United States. So that red line, that red bar in billions has gone from about just under 3 billion to 1.7 billion in the same 10-year period. So United Ways across the entire country have had to rethink what is our place in the community and what role do we play. For us in 2017, we started with bringing the Alice project to the community. And so when we really wanted to revision our purpose, we started with that. Our mission now is improving lives by connecting and mobilizing community resources. We are uniquely good at bringing together multiple entities to solve problems. And we envision a strong, equitable, and accessible network of support for working households in the Central Shenandoah Valley. And that is namely that Alice population. I have a couple slides about Alice. I heard you all are very familiar with this, so I will blow through those. You all know the differences in kind of the terminology here. So we've got federal poverty level. That's going to be the same across the entire 48 contiguous United States. Alice is determined based on your locality. The Alice threshold is what it takes to survive above the Alice threshold and then below the Alice threshold. So what is looked at in that report is everything from housing, childcare, food, transportation, everything listed on this slide. All of those factors are taken into account and all from publicly sourced data. So the United Way of Northern New Jersey partners with Rutgers University to compile these reports annually, and they are updated on an annual basis. For Staunton, Virginia, we are looking at about 13% federal poverty level, 33% Alice, and 54% above the Alice threshold. So just for you all to have that awareness, 46% of the community living below that Alice threshold. This is all from unitedforalice.org. And I know, Alice, I want to acknowledge I'm saying your name a lot, but It's okay. that is the one challenge of this project. So I wanted to briefly show you all the Virginia Alice page. I don't know if this is something you all are familiar with. There's so much data available on this site. And if you go to the Virginia page, you can look at county reports and drill down to Staunton City and see how financial hardship has changed over time. So this is poverty versus Alice over the last 13-year period. You can see how this breaks down by race and ethnicity in Staunton. You can look at household type, so single or cohabitating. One thing I noticed that was very interesting, and this is, I have not seen this in a community yet, as single male-headed households with children are more likely to be Alice than female. It's usually the reverse. And the cost of kind of break down what these different categories would be. Some people will say, what is the threshold for Alice? It totally depends on your household makeup. So this is kind of a breakdown of what that report has found. So for you all, I just wanted you to be aware that that data is there. It's accessible. United for Alice, you all can check that out at any time. So I want to talk about the new United Way. And when I talk about this, I like to refer to it in two ways. The first is in the systems and in the gaps. So here is how our new United Way, as we have evolved from the clearinghouse for charitable giving to this new version of United Way, we are still looking at systems. So how are people accessing resources in our community? 211 has become a very necessary and vital resource in Harrisonburg, Rockingham County, and we'd like to see it grow in Staunton, Augusta, Waynesboro. That is a call line anyone can call 24/7. There are dozens of languages available, and they can get access to human service organizations, get referred to human service organizations to meet their needs. 988 connects to 211. It's a fantastic state resource. Alice Coalition is a coalition of organizations that serve that Alice population that we bring together to make sure that they are aware of the work that each other are doing, of the 211 data, of different community resources. So coalition building and really convening partners around this population. We do events like Tools for School, very, very similar to the Staunton City Schools Back to School Bash that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Probably less than that, because y'all school is about to start here pretty soon. And so events for like this for us have been really intentional to bring resources to families so that they are easier to access. So families know how to access these systems and we can better identify where there are gaps. One highlight I want to point out here is the Food Coalition. And in 2020, when the pandemic hit, a lot of organizations stepped up to address food insecurity in Harrisonburg, Rockingham County. And what happened was they weren't communicating and families were getting bags of food dropped off at their door on the same day and food was going to waste. There wasn't any communication. So one of the food entities came to us and said, can you help organize this effort? And we said, sure, this is exactly within our wheelhouse. And so we created the Food Coalition. And 5 years later, that coalition is off and running. They have a part-time grant-funded staff person that manages their work. And the food organizations in Harrisonburg, Rockingham County are communicating on a regular basis. So this is how United Way is addressing systems. When I talk about gaps, I like to talk about things like our work around weatherization. We work with community housing partners. There's a Waynesboro office for this to help weatherize people's homes so that they are paying less in their utility bills. There's a lot of overlap in environmental justice and supporting the Alice population when we're talking about weatherizing people's homes. We still do impact grants. They are significantly reduced from what they used to be, per that graph that you saw initially, really focused around sliding scale childcare. For us, that is one of the most vital pieces of an Alice family household budget, is that if they can maintain their childcare and maintain their work, their ability to work, then they're going to be in a better spot once their kids start school. And so are the kids. It's kind of a dual benefit there. And then we're working on bringing in some additional supports around single parents. So that's a work in progress for us, but how can we build networks of support specifically for single parent households, because the likelihood of them being in that ALICE population is more significant. And one thing I want to highlight here is our Financial Wellness at Work program. We've just launched a pilot of this at a local employer in Rockingham County. And this is basically bringing the services of United Way into an employer. So where ALICE families are is they're at work, right? The E in ALICE is employed. And so we have a resource coordinator on site who is helping employees navigate human service organizations outside of work that can help them show up to work happy and ready with everything else in their life, kind of having a plan for those things. Alongside that, we have a small dollar loan program. So if your car breaks down and you don't have $1,000, you can get 24 to 48 hours a loan turned around that you pay back through payroll deduction. And we're adding an additional component onto that, which is financial education. So sitting down, budgeting support, first-time home buyer support. We've got a lot of folks that just want to buy a car. So helping people really think about their finances in a new way. I think financial education can feel really overwhelming. And so we've really taken a social work approach to financial education. So I want to share a brief story, and it's about a 50-year-old woman who came to us a couple months ago. She works for an employer in Rockingham County, manufacturing company. She was working full-time, consistently 8 hours of overtime every week, living very comfortably until she wasn't. She had back surgery. Then very soon after, she took custody of her 4 grandchildren. And within a short couple of weeks, everything for her changed. We say she wasn't Alice until she very suddenly was. When she came to us, she was very overwhelmed. She was behind on a couple of payments. And not only were we able to help her catch up on some of those payments, but we were able to help her connect with a couple of childcare resources, car insurance, and other organizations so that she had a plan for how is she going to live in this new way with this new budget and this new household that she had. So it's a work in progress. We continue to stay in touch with her to make sure that if something else changes, we're there as a lifeline for her. So the next steps for us as we expand to Staunton, Augusta, Waynesboro, and cover the whole Central Shenandoah Valley are we're doing a lot of listening. We want to hear from partner organizations. We absolutely know that while Staunton, Augusta, and Waynesboro there's a lot of similarities to Harrisonburg and Rockingham County. We know there are a ton of differences. And so we want to really be intentional about hearing the community, hearing the needs, and being responsive to what the community really needs for the whole region. We've launched some surveys on our website. The link is in the PowerPoint slides to hear from folks who want to provide that input and feedback. We're working right now with partners on what is Stuff the Bus going to look like. That's probably been one of the #1 questions that we've gotten. We've taken a different approach to Stuff the Bus. But we want to support that effort here because we know that the bus is still moving in that direction. And so we're working with Salvation Army and the school systems to figure out what that will look like this summer. And then obviously identifying programs from the old United Way in this region and what programs we may be bringing moving forward. But ultimately our goal is to build a shared vision for the entire Central Shenandoah Valley. So 3 to 5 years, the goal will be that we are united as a community, really looking at solutions that cross locality lines, because we know people live and work in both communities, right? People are commuting back and forth. And so that's part of what was important for us to do as we approach this expansion, was to be flexible and nimble and responsive to the community. So, what questions do you all have for me?
How are you going to address the hemorrhaging of funding? Because you can't do all these great things without income source.
Well, and what I don't point out on that side is the diversification of other revenues. That's been the kind of the theme of United Ways over the past 15 years. And so we've really looked at how do we partner with businesses in new ways? How do we work on our individual giving has risen significantly over the past couple of years. So it's just kind of how we calculate that. But we have looked at how do we find different sources of funding. So we're partnering with Harrisonburg and Rockingham County localities on funding in different ways. We've gotten a significant increase in grant funding from different entities. So absolutely, I appreciate that question, but it's something that we're all thinking about across the network.
Why is employee giving down so much? That was a big source, I guess. I
Ye-
remember being in companies and being a
Yep.
central part of the, it was heavily supported and
Yes.
got matching funds from the employer.
Yeah. When was that? Do you remember? I'm not trying to,
No, I mean,
to,
for me, it was the 80s or 90s.
yes.
Oh, it was still going on in 2000.
Yep.
More recent than that.
Can we, so one of the biggest
Uh,
changes is technology. So we're seeing technology companies coming into companies and saying, we can do this cheaper. We can do employee payroll deduction cheaper. And companies are saying, yeah, I'll take you up on that. And I think new generations are entering the workforce they want to give where they're connected. They want to give to, causes all around the country. And I also joke, I mean, I can pull out my phone and make a gift to any nonprofit in the entire world in less than a minute, which you could not do in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. So there's been a significant shift in how people engage with philanthropy that has moved away from United Way.
But it is local. I mean,
Yeah.
that
It is. And we make that pitch every time we go into a workplace. We still have wonderful workplace campaigns. They are still the majority of our funding. They just aren't what they were in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
So I know you all have a central location, but will you be expanding into this area also?
Yes, so we will keep our office in Harrisonburg. Right now, we have a full-time staff person who will be 2 days a week at the Staunton Innovation Hub. She just started 3 weeks ago, so we haven't we're just trying to get her onboarded first. But once we get her fully on board, it will be multiple days a week here. And then we're looking at having other staff members in this area just until we assess what the long-term location will be.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for your time. This was super helpful. I just had one question.
Yeah.
Is this going to be put on our website, for the city website, for presentations to council?
Kylie has it.
Wonderful. Thank you. So if anyone's interested in this information, it will be on the website.
Thank you so much for having me. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I don't have my business cards updated because I changed my title and name within the past couple of weeks. So
Might want to wait a while then.
yes. Well, thank
Thank-
you all so much. I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much too. It was
Yeah.
very wonderful meeting you.
Do I need to do anything on my end? Nope, got it.
Mm.
Gonna rush out to go coach a volleyball game.
Do it. Good luck. All righty. Next up, item 3 is a discussion of a proposal for a new form of city council recognition. Ms. Beauregard?
Madam Mayor.
Oh, I'll go ahead and introduce this.
Go ahead.
I will. So I hope you all remember that we honored Colonel Patrick about 2 months ago for her extensive contributions to the community. And Mr. Kessiker came up with the idea of calling it the Spirit of Staunton. And we sort of threw around the idea of it becoming a more permanent recognition. And so in order to do that, we have to meet as a council and go over whether we all agree on that, what would the criteria be, how would it happen? Would it be indeed called the Spirit of Staunton? And so I have written up some discussion questions just to help us move along. We have about 15 minutes for this discussion.
Have another one?
I don't have one for
Here.
Adam.
That's fine.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
We can share this.
Thank you so much. I apologize. So, so with the Spirit of Stanton, I know what my idea was, and it was really to shine a light on people who were making positive change in the community, and not just recently, but who had really been doing it for a long time and kind of flying under the radar and not getting a whole lot of recognition, but really consistently showing up and changing lives and improving our community. And so number one basically asks us, what values and actions should be celebrated if we were to decide on, and of course, this is not a decision yet, this is just a discussion, would be celebrated if we were to decide to have a new recognition. Again, I had said volunteerism. Mr. Kessiker helped come up with this list, and so he added leadership or cultural contributions or advocacy. The second one was what significant contributions had they given, and what is a significant contribution? What constitutes a significant contribution? And should they be made in a voluntary capacity only, or could it be something that people are doing in their day-to-day work life, for example? Should the award recognize lifetime service or a single one-time incident where somebody maybe really does something fantastic that council feels like, or council or anyone in the community feels like it needs to be recognized? Under criteria, should it be limited to city residents, or could it include those who have a strong connection to the city? Maybe someone who lived here a long time ago, moved away, maybe a business owner within the city. And can it be awarded posthumously? Somebody who's passed away, but who was not recognized appropriately and during their lifetime. And should the award be limited to individuals, or should it include groups and organizations? And should the recognition be based on merit and achievement, or what should it be based on? I think that goes back to our values. And then who nominates the individual or organization? Anybody in the city, anybody who lives outside of the city, thinking about that. So who reviews the nominations, when and how? That is it's something that'd probably take a lot longer than this discussion. What kinds of documentation or testimonials should be required in a nomination? I see this as something fairly significant, something not quite a key to the city or proclamation, but something bigger than, a certificate sent in the mail. That's where my thinking is. Look forward to hearing your thoughts. So should it be more than one individual having to nominate this person, or getting, 3 or 4 testimonials saying what this person does? And then again, frequency, is it something that we do just once a year, quarterly, or as needed as they come in? And how can we ensure the award feels meaningful to both recipients and the community? And then does everyone like the idea of Spirit of Staunton? So now that everyone's heard that, we'll start the conversation. Yes, sir.
Sure, you mean this as something above, because currently we have, remember, we have letter just sent out as recognition. Then we have certificate of recognition, which can be presented in council chambers as well. And so this
Yeah.
would be sort of above that, but we're below commemorative proclamation.
I know this
I
sounds
was going to ask the same
confusing.
question. How does it fit into this framework? Is it sort of above an additional one, or is it like the
Is it a
super?
renaming of?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Yeah, okay. I
This
just
is why
want
we're
to get an
here.
idea where it fits
This is
in.
why my thinking was that it was something, pretty spectacular, somebody who's a long time devoted person to the community.
It almost seems like it takes the place of the key to the city, which at least in this framework is kind of the top recognition, the most significant.
How often do we give out keys to the city?
I've only seen it
often.
Very
once
few.
or twice.
So I think the last one was the Statler Brothers.
Yeah,
the
Wilson
Happy Birthday
Fairchild
America.
or the.
And then the one before that, I think, was for Sarah Lynn for Queen
Mhm.
City. That's the only two I'm aware of,
Yeah.
that I'm knowledgeable of, but I've only been here for the one for the Happy Birthday America. So not frequent at all.
That is a major contribution to.
Yeah.
You view both of those as something that would be fall under this? Or is that above and beyond this?
Gosh, that's huge. I mean, it's above and beyond, I'd say. I mean, because those two things, I mean, Mischief and Magic going on now 10 years. And then Happy Birthday America. This is something that brings in tens of thousands, many thousands of people. Significantly contributes to tourism, to recognition for the city, and just takes who knows how long. You know, when they come in to speak, they say, you know, we start the day after and we get ready for the following year. It's a huge thing, and it's
I can,
I guess worthy of a key to
yeah.
the city.
I
Yeah.
think, just personally, just to give my
course.
feedback, I really like the idea. Because I'm a big believer in positive feedback. There's so many good people doing great things
Mhm.
in our city, and the more that we can share those, and I just think it feeds off itself. So I would like to see it. I definitely like Spirit of Stanton Award. I like the name. Well done. I like that. And I think, I mean, I would think it would be cool to do it quarterly, you know? That's for a year. And I do see like the key being something, you know, much more, you know, like we said, 2 times in the past, recent memory. And, but yeah, I definitely, I like it. I like it. But I think as far as like, does it have to be voluntary? I think it could also be part of somebody's livelihood, because people, you know, answer their calling in different ways. And if they happen to have it as an actual profession, I don't think that should count against them. Yeah, I don't know. I'm all for it, definitely.
I agree with all those points. I think it doesn't necessarily have to be a resident of Staunton. It can be somebody who can significantly contributes to the life and vitality of the community. That's my thought.
So doesn't have to live in can you think of an I mean, I don't want you to say one's name. I'm sorry.
Well, Sarah
so
Lynch was not a
what-
resident of Stanton. when she
Yeah,
got the
I
key to the
see.
city. Yeah.
Right, no, exactly. All righty.
And these are a lot of great questions that I
Yeah.
think are gonna
Mhm.
take a lot of time to.
Yeah, I
reflect
know.
on,
This
and
is,
they're
I
not-
don't
be-
think this is going to be something that we're obviously going to be
And through.
getting through this evening, but it's a start. Let's just see, hopefully we'll at least leave with the agreement that we agree on it, and some foundational points to continue with.
I do agree. Let's give an instance for a group, you know, that.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I have a group in mind that they,
Mhm.
all they are doing to help at the say their name.
Mhm. No. Because what if we don't give it to them? I kind of feel like that's part of it, is that we have to protect people's privacy too, because then we would, I mean, go ahead, Alice, say
I'm
whatever
good.
you want, but
But-
no, but you know what
But
I'm
we-
saying.
We all know that, you know, what they've done to make
Mhm.
area that they're doing better for all the residents,
Mhm.
even those that are unsheltered.
Mhm.
those that, you know,
Yeah,
come out in the heat and want to participate. So that's something like that, you know, that is good.
yeah, definitely. Does everyone else have ideas about recognizing organizations, agencies, groups that are?
Makes sense to include organizations, I think, in addition to individuals.
Anybody think that's a bad idea? All right. Argue with Alice at dinner. All righty. So Corey thinks that it can be part of the person's livelihood. Does
Yeah, I agree with that.
you agree with
Yeah.
that? Mm. That's interesting. I didn't think of that it would be part of someone's livelihood, but
think honestly, I think often it has been, with other forms
Mhm.
as well,
Mhm.
like someone's retiring and that kind of thing. So I mean, I think that. I don't know. I feel like I don't want to put a time,
Mhm. Yeah.
like, oh, every 3 months we're gonna give one out. Yes, we're not saying, oh, gosh.
Mhm.
We need to find somebody. Not that it would be difficult in Stanton, but I think it's to me, it's more meaningful if it's for above and beyond and it's in the instance.
Yeah, I would be
I'd be
inclined to
fine.
leave it
It
more.
could be I'm sorry, it could be one instance, not just.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying not
Fine.
every 3 months we award one,
Yeah.
or every 6
Right.
months.
I
or
would keep
anything
it
like that.
open-ended and see how it goes. Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe it makes sense. We can set a
Mhm.
schedule.
And everybody said they liked the name and the idea of it, and that the spirit of Stanton would kind of support our values, that we've agreed on with in the Stanton plan, for example, and essentially a commitment to improving the quality of life for people in Stanton. And I think the nomination review process and all of that might be a longer discussion.
If, yeah, well, I mean, we'll need to get into where it
Mhm.
fits in, because right now it's somewhere straddling, like a council procedure memorandum number 19, which is all
Yeah.
the proclamations, all
Right.
that's, it's a mix of certificate of recognition and
Mhm.
commemorative proclamation, because
Mhm.
commemorative proclamation covers an organization
Mhm.
as well. And
Mhm.
then so I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, we just have to decide where it lands, what we
Mhm.
call it. I mean, not what we call it,
Yeah.
but what we call these as well.
So how does it differ between
How does it
from a
differ? Does it
proclamation?
replace something? Um, do we change the definition of something already existing?
Mhm. All right. And how are you feeling about how folks are nominated? I mean, we don't get a whole lot of recognition requests. And then how would it be? Well, I would hope that it would become sort of a word of mouth thing and to be pushed out. And if somebody were recognized, they would, folks would begin to see positive impact that's being
Lovely.
made.
I think use of a form with prompts that would include some of the things we're looking for, why does this person, what have they contributed? Maybe, can you list some names of others who would offer testimonials or whatever we want to see in a nomination? Then I would let anybody nominate.
Mhm. So it would be similar to what is already on some of the recognitions.
So I think Brad was saying
Mhm.
about recognizing, because, some people in the community come and ask the city to recognize, but they don't do it here in council.
Mhm.
They do it Specifically
Right.
where they are
Right.
in their
And that's,
own setting. So
yeah.
would that replace that? Or, I
I
mean, we
think-
could let them still do
Yeah.
that part, but this is just a separate entity from that.
I think for me, I don't know what y'all think. For me, the location, if they requested it to be somewhere else outside of Chambers, I think that would be fine. If they didn't want to come in here and be recognized. How do you feel about that?
I just thought it'd be part of like our city council meeting.
Mhm. The way a proclamation is. And
Yeah.
Because like at the senior home was recognized for.
Right. Yeah, right.
There.
Well, yeah, I mean.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
Yeah,
I think in that instance, you still want to do something to recognize it in council chambers to
Right.
keep with,
to keep
Yeah.
With that.
yeah,
Right.
but then you could do something separate there.
Risk of becoming Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yeah, I like the link to the city council meeting. It gets officially recorded in the minutes. It's
Mhm.
recorded in video and
All righty. All righty, so should be done in chambers. But as Counselor Campbell said, possibly if someone from council were able to, or a few people from council were able to go to a place of their choosing, do it there, at maybe one of their meetings. Okay. All right. So we had the as needed, anything else? We can, just take what we've got so far and probably, compile a list of what we've have written. And then I think we'll have to carry this conversation on. Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
the
Yes, of course.
key to the city, it does say needs to be unanimously approved
Okay,
by the city.
right.
Might want to discuss.
Thank you.
Do you want it to make it a unanimous requirement?
And the proclamation, Mr. Blair, is a
That's majority vote.
majority.
Effectively.
That's a good point. Key to the city is the highest level, so it is unanimous. So how do you all feel about or to give something called the Spirit of Stanton that is meant to be, a very high recognition for somebody?
Quick
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
So it feels like
Mhm.
those are a little bit different than proclamations because you actually have a
Mhm.
nomination process and you
Mhm.
don't for proclamations. So would you
Mhm.
want to take a
True.
vote on that? I mean, I
Right.
hear what Mr. Blair is saying.
I
But
see.
is there a different process you want? Because I'm not sure you
Right,
would take a vote on a key to the city necessarily.
Right.
And this seems like something that's a higher level that you were actually going to be reviewing nominations.
Right.
So maybe there's another process other than like a formal vote
Yeah.
before it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like we do
and-
for proclamations.
Yes,
So sorry to make it a little muddier, but maybe
No,
it's
that
a
makes
different way to
sense.
look at it.
that
Yeah,
makes sense.
so-
Yeah. Then you'd end up having sort of a nominations meeting in chambers and that might not work. So, yeah, so that's something that's another thing
Okay, so.
that is not,
Individual nominations, so let's say that you had somebody that you wanted to
Mhm.
bring it to us and we just agree on it, or?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, so Leslie, yeah, you had
Yeah, I'm
a,
not sure I was suggesting it would be the nominations committee. I don't know
No.
what that looks like necessarily, but
Right,
yeah.
no, I was just saying, we don't
Yeah.
want it to be like a nominations committee. It would be just like we have now. If you want to give somebody a recognition, you go to the website, you click on recognition, you choose the one you want, you fill out all of the, the documentation.
So do you want a couple
Yeah.
of you to review those with staff maybe? I'm just kind of brainstorming
I
here.
think that's a good idea.
So maybe that's an
The questions
approach.
that-
So it's not really a vote taken, but you have a couple members of council, some
Mm-hmm.
staff.
There ought to be some kind of standing body that does the
Yes.
vetting.
Correct, yeah. And I would think that would be the same maybe for the,
Mhm.
I don't know, again, we don't have a lot of practice of giving the
Yeah.
keys, but
Right,
that's
right.
another issue too, and it seems like it's at that level.
Yeah, some ideas on how we could go about
Mhm.
doing
How
that would
about
be
that?
helpful. Yeah,
Mhm.
right. Thank you.
Yeah, we can kind of throw some ideas around and come back.
Okay,
to the
thank you.
next meeting. Put those in front of you, and I think I have
Yeah.
the notes, we've taken notes and we can kind of
Alrighty.
collect what you've kind of agreed on at this
Mhm.
time, or at least
Mhm.
discussed, and then you
Yeah.
all can kind of try to finalize this.
And then the questions we didn't actually answer.
Yeah. And we'll-
The details we still didn't
Kind
get
of, we'll
to.
kind of think through that at our
Yeah, thank
level
you.
and make a, present something. that
Terrific.
we all could consider at least.
Thank you.
So,
And I'll email this to you.
Okay.
All righty. Well, we are right on time. So moving on to item 4, we now move on to our final work session item, a closed meeting, and I will entertain a motion to enter a closed meeting.
Sure.
Vice Mayor Arrowood.
All right.
Somebody.
I move to enter a closed meeting for the discussion or consideration of public contracts involving the expenditure of public funds for consulting services and construction services where such discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the city of Staunton. And for consultation with legal counsel from the city attorney for legal advice related to a potential boundary line adjustment pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A8.
Thank you, Mr. Arrowood. Is there a second?
A second.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Kesker, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Hi.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're now in closed session. I hope to see you all back at 7 PM. Thank you. Is it ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes. I will now entertain a motion to reconvene in an open meeting.
Madam Mayor,
Counselor Woods.
I move that council reconvene in open meeting and certify to the best of each member's knowledge that only lawfully exempted public business matters were discussed and that only public business matters as identified in the closed meeting motion were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting.
Thank you, Counselor Woods. Is there a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Kesker, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Overholzer.
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. It's now 7 o'clock and I'd like to call the June 22nd, 2025 regular meeting of the Staunton City Council to order. I have a special guest this evening. His name is Oliver and he will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So will you please stand and join Oliver and his mother Chelsea in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
He's wearing a bolo. It's adorable. So cute.
You're free to go.
It is never too early to start civic participation. So thank you, Oliver. Thank you, Chelsea. All righty. Well, this evening's invocation comes to us from Counselor Overholzer.
Thank you. Please join me in this invocation if you wish. Dear Lord, we face challenging times, but your word commands that we put on the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. So in obedience to that, we thank you for your blessings, for the gift of life, and for the privilege of serving this city. I thank you, Lord, for the dedication and service of our city and school staff, the partner agencies of the city, volunteers and advisory committees. Thank you, Lord, for our city employees in public works, parks and recreation, and police and fire who don't have the luxury of staying indoors in this hot, unseasonable weather. Lord, I ask you to watch over them to safeguard their health and well-being as they strive to maintain and improve our public spaces and maintain safety and order. Lord, I also lift up our other city departments that work so hard to keep the city moving forward and smoothly. Among them, human resources, IT, the library, community development, economic development, finance, tourism, and others. Lord, I'm also mindful of various celebrations this month of our diverse and inclusive community. Thank you for the richness that comes from our diversity and help us to live up to our motto, you belong here. Help us to look out for each other as neighbors. I pray for constructive engagement from all our residents with the business of city government. We benefit from multiple perspectives and from thoughtful input. Lord, we also ask for your assistance on city council for wisdom and discernment as we deliberate and make decisions. Help us to be efficient and effective in the use of financial and other resources for the benefit of all our residents. Lord, I pray in the name of the Father and the Spirit and the Son. Amen.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Councilman. So I will share my mayor's report. I had the opportunity to take some time this summer. I'm a teacher, so I'm on summer break, and I had some time away with my husband to rest and see some places, new places and old friends. But it's great to be back in the city and doing the city's work. Normally, I will share a list of what's happening at the library and ask you to please go to the website and sign up for the newsletter, but I taught myself something new today. I made some QR codes, so you don't have to go to the newsletter, go to the website. Simply go to these QR codes. Mr. Kessiker has posted them on the wall. And I would love for people to go to our website and see all the great resources that are there. You can see the Stanton events calendar. You can see the Parks and Rec summer activity guide. I have e-notifications from the city. Sign up for those. Always get the latest information about what's going on. There's a QR code for boards and commissions. So there are a few openings. I'd also like to add that the Talking Book Center is looking for somebody to volunteer to be on their board. So you can find them on that website. So please use these to sign up again for all of the great information that is on the city's website. And that's all I have. Anyone have anything that they would like to share?
Well, a lot has happened in the last month since we met.
Yes, it's been a long
last.
time.
The comp plan event at the high school was certainly a highlight, very well attended. Very grateful to the residents who came out and commented, responded to the draft plans for the city, this roadmap for the city. So it was very exciting to see everybody there, joined by many staff and a number of council members. Also very appreciative for the Juneteenth celebration last Saturday at Montgomery Hall Park. A terrific celebration and celebration of our heritage and history and of our diverse community. Appreciate that. A couple of environmental related events. We had Clean the Bay Day I'll cite from the report from Willow Hughes about this, over 350 pounds of trash collected from 2 miles of our local creeks. So that's a fantastic volunteer effort. Really appreciate everyone's work on that. And then there was a surf and turf event at the Visual Light to kind of highlight the link between land conservation efforts and water quality, how those are linked together. So it just highlights that we have a green, clean Queen City. I appreciate everything that people do to contribute to that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else have something to add?
Sure.
Vice Mayor Arrowood.
I also was at the comp plan workshop. I'd like to say it was very well attended by the public too. It was great to see so many people involved. Let's see, last Wednesday, I had a chance to go to the Community Foundation Grant Celebration. See a couple of the recipients here too. And they were handing out grants to different, arts, education, emergency groups that help out in the community as well too. That's always just a big deal. They give out so many grants now that they have to find ways to streamline it, and they're just so integrated into our community. I was able to attend the retirement celebration for Dr. Smith, superintendent of schools. His influence will be felt for a long time in our schools, and also the naming of the new superintendent, Dr. Erica Irizarry, too, on Monday. So yeah, a lot happening here in the city.
Mhm, definitely. Thank you. Thank you. Counselor Woods.
Oh, we've all been busy
Mhm.
over I call it a summer break from council. But as we move on, we are not too busy not to continue to work for the city as we take our breaks. I Juneteenth, last Saturday was a beautiful event, along with, Dr. Alfonso Hamilton Day. That was also on Saturday. We had, before any of us got on council, it was, dedicated to, he have a day, Alfonso Hamilton has a day, so he is always commended for his day. And fortunately, it was the same time as Juneteenth. Also, we welcomed Senator Mark Warner to the community. It was an eye-opening event as he talked about the economy, talked about education, and of course, the bill that's coming out with different cuts here and there. It was very hot that day inside because Augusta County has a new event space on Singers Lane, and unfortunately, air conditioning wasn't working at the time. So we wasn't long in that space. I would love to continue on a little bit longer. Also, I'm sorry, you all. I got a head cold. That's
Oh,
really
no, that's okay.
totally
You want to just do the nominations?
blowing me away right
That's
now.
okay.
So I'm
Get a
Can I-
going.
nominations
can I
report.
Add one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Also, I just want to weigh in on our city's Juneteenth Day celebration. Mayor Edwards and Councilor Woods did a great job speaking to opening the event. And it was also, I just want to say it was great to hear from Mayor Kenny Lee from Waynesboro, and great to meet him for the first time. And I just want to announce and remind everyone that this Saturday is the Relay for Shea. There's an community event at Staunton High School from 10 to 11 a.m. For a fundraiser to help restore the Shea House at Fairview Cemetery. I'm coming back from camp that morning, but
So
I plan to be there.
Can I correct you on that time? So the time starts at 7 o'clock for registration, and the walk actually starts at 8.
Okay, 8 to 11. 8 to 11.
8 to 11.
Okay.
So we don't want nobody getting out there at 10
What did I
o'clock and
say?
we.
I said 10 to 11.
Yeah. Just wanted to do that. And do you have anything else?
Nope. Thank you.
Okay, so I do have one more. The Staunton Augusta County African American Research Society has done a great job as preserving Black history here in our community. And we have put up markers. We have 6 that we know of that historically African American spaces and places. So on July 11th will be our final markers put out, and that would be dedicated 10 markers in Montgomery Hall Park that will share the history of Montgomery Hall Park. So if you're not doing anything on July 11th, come out at 11 o'clock. It'll be a ribbon cutting. Mayor, unfortunately, I won't be there because I will be sailing the high seas.
Oh, that's right.
Hopefully, city manager will be there. So if you're coming
be
out, come out
I'll be
and
there, yeah.
enjoy the ribbon cutting and actually read the markers and what it says about Montgomery Hall Park.
Thank you.
So now, last thing, I have the nominations committee report. The nominations committee met on June the 16th, 2025, and would like to make the following motion to appoint Ian Callahan to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2028. To appoint Belinda Polgar to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2028. To reappoint Mark Jeter to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 2028. To reappoint Amanda DeMayo to the Shenandoah Valley Partnership for a 2-year term beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 2027.
This does not require a second, so Mr. Kessicker, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you to the nominations committee for your work on that. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item A, the consent agenda. Per procedure memorandum number 14, it's the policy of city council to have routine, non-controversial items placed on a consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be voted on in one motion. If separate discussion of an item is requested by any member of council, that item shall be removed and considered separately at the end of the regular meeting agenda. Do any council members wish to remove an item from the consent agenda to be placed at the end of the regular meeting agenda for separate consideration? All righty. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Counselor Oberholzer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Park. Any further discussion about that? Mr. Kessiker, please call the roll.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood.
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All righty, terrific. So moving on to item B, one of the best parts about being on city council and particularly being mayor is the promotional pinning of Fire and Rescue Lieutenant Phil Seibold. Ms. Beauregard?
I'd be looking at Chief Ball to please come
Yes.
up and make introductions, and then we can bring Lieutenant Seibold up, and we're going to play, Josh isn't here, so we're going to do our best. to-
Okay.
I think Savannah, you're gonna do it. You can
Oh,
try.
so, you are? Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I'll do some too, but yours might be better, so we'll see.
All right,
Thank you,
so,
Chief.
yes, PJ is, Phil, better known as PJ, is our last one. He was unable to make it in January, I believe, when we did the other three. He's supposed to be out of town, ended up being sick. It's been a little challenge to get everybody scheduled back between he and Chelsea's work schedule. So tonight we have PJ, and you have already met Oliver and his wife Chelsea.
Ready? You want everyone to see you? He doesn't. How about this? Cameras in front of me. Yeah. Right, you- Please repeat after me. I, Phil Seibold, do solemnly swear
Phil solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a lieutenant for the City of Staunton Fire and Rescue Department,
as a lieutenant for the City of Staunton Fire and Rescue Department,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. It's just fresh. I'll get pictures. Daddy, I could wear it.
Maybe I could.
Chief, you got to get these pins easier to put on. It's always a challenge.
Yeah, that's right. Different year ceremony.
Well done.
All right. Yes, ma'am. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Ball. I hope I get some of those pictures. All righty, moving on to item C, public hearing and consideration of a request by Max Nunez to vacate a portion of an unaccepted alley lying between 316 Hammock Street and 1015 Peck Street, 1019 Peck Street, and 1025 Peck Street. Ms. Beauregard.
Hey, Rodney Rhodes is waiting in the wings for this one.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Rhodes.
As the mayor noted in the introduction to this, Mr. Nunez is seeking to vacate an undeveloped alley lying between the rear of three properties facing Peck Street and one property fronting on Hamrick Street. This area was annexed into the city in 1905, and the alley was platted in 1917. The applicant had purchased property adjoining this in 2023, and now he proposes to construct a single-family home on 316 Hamrick Street. But this property does not front on a developed street as required by city code. By extending Hamrick Street for the construction of only one dwelling would be cost prohibitive. Therefore, Mr. Nunez is proposing to access the property from Peck Street via an easement, a private easement. He owns 1025 Peck Street also, so this would be an easement on another lot that he owns. City Council probably about 3 or 4 years ago amended the ordinance to allow kind of these landlocked parcels to be developed with a single-family house if they get a private easement. So that is what if he's able to vacate this alleyway, then this easement could go right up to this property. Right now, the alley kind of is a barrier between his property and where this easement could be. Staff has reviewed this, has not identified any issues. This would only vacate the eastern portion of the alley. This alley does not appear to be utilized by any of the other adjoining property owners, and I do not believe we received any emails or letters or phone calls in opposition to vacating this alley. And vacating this alley would not have any impact on the usability of the other alleys and undeveloped streets in the area. And the Planning Commission on November 16th, 2023, after conducting a public hearing where no one spoke in opposition to this request, on a 5-0 vote, unanimously recommended approval of this request. And this was about 1.5 years ago when it went to Planning Commission, because after that point, it's on the applicant to draft an ordinance before it comes to City Council. So that's what we have been waiting on. I'll be glad to take any questions you have now or after you conduct the public hearing.
For clarification of terms, when you say unaccepted alley,
Yeah,
what does that mean? Does that mean it wasn't accepted by the city to maintain?
like a paper?
I mean, Mr. Blair may be able to answer what unaccepted is, but I believe it is a undeveloped alley that was never accepted by the city.
Right.
Yes, it's a platted but undeveloped
A
alley,
theoretical alley.
theoretical.
Is there anyone, is Mr. Nunez here? Speak? Would you like to say a few words? Okay, then you don't have to. It's not an obligation.
Now you.
But if you would like to, you're more than welcome to speak.
Yeah, I would just really like to, if we can use this to build a single family house in the back, yeah, pretty much, and get that access without being super costly. On the other side of the street, it would be pretty impossible. So, yeah,
All right.
that's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, this is a public hearing. In a moment, I will open up the public hearing. This is a time that council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about the specific topic on the agenda. We ask that you please give your name, your address, and then keep your remarks at 5 minutes or less. When you reach the 5-minute time limit, I will let you know that your time limit has expired. For our Zoom participants, please raise your hand now if you wish to speak on this particular public hearing. If you raise your hand during this public hearing, you will also be able to raise your hand during this council meeting for other public hearings and matters of the public. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes as well. Once everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity, I will then close the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing, so if you wish to speak, please approach the podium, and we will alternate between individuals physically present and those who have their hands raised via the Zoom platform. Again, this public hearing is for item C only, and you're asked to not speak on any other topic. Would anybody like to approach the podium and speak on item C? Mr. Kessiker, does anyone have their hands raised?
No, ma'am, we have no hands raised.
All righty. I will, now, any other discussion by city council, questions, or then I will entertain a motion.
Madam.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need to close the public hearing. Thank you. The vice mayor keeps me on my toes. I'll now entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that the city council adopt the ordinance and approve the alley vacation as recommended by the planning commission.
Thank you, Councilor
A
Park.
second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Kessiker, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Overholtzer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood.
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. Good luck with your house. You're welcome. All righty. Moving on to item D, we are at consideration of a final plat for Bell Creek, sections 3 and 4. Ms. Beauregard.
Rodney Rhodes is going to also introduce this item.
Good evening again.
Good evening. Thanks. Bell Creek is a planned residential development approved in 2004 for a total of 128 single-family dwellings. Sections 1 and 2 have been platted, recorded, and I believe for the most part have been developed with a total of 52 lots. This is to complete that subdivision with sections 3 and 4 for an additional 74 lots. I would note that staff has reviewed this. It is in general conformance with the preliminary plans and the master plan for Bell Creek. An infrastructure construction plan for these improvements has been reviewed and approved by staff, but the infrastructure has not been completed at this time. Therefore, a bond is required for that infrastructure. And when this went to the Planning Commission in March of this year, the city needed a bond, as I mentioned, for the infrastructure. And also there was need for a deed of easement to be recorded for the public water, public sanitary sewer, and public storm easements, and a deed of dedication of right-of-way for the new public streets. The Planning Commission on March 20th, 2025, considered the request and on a 4-0 vote unanimously recommended approval of the final plat with 2 conditions: that those 2 issues be addressed before it be placed on the city council agenda. And those issues have been addressed by the developer at this time. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have at this time. This does not require a public hearing. I do not see the developer in attendance. I believe their surveyor, Daniel Hansen, is here if you have any questions about the plats, the final plat.
So the total build out is 126 homes. Is there any concern about the sort of single point of access to the main road to US 250 with that many homes and the final build out?
When this was, the master plan was approved, preliminary plats in 2004, we did not have a requirement for a second means of ingress, egress into development of this size. I believe that the fire marshal now requires a second access once you go beyond 50 lots. But this is in essence pre-existing.
So legally that you can't apply that retroactively.
That's correct.
The property to the north between this and 262, is that zone commercial? Looks like it, B1. There hasn't been any interest in future development connecting to the stub.
I have not heard of any interest in developing that.
Mr. Rose, when you say there was general conformance with the original plans, that is not exact conformance. So there were changes.
Well, the general lot layout, the street layout, that was all in conformance. You don't get into the details until you get to the final plat and construction plan. So what was approved in 2004 was much more general in nature than what we have now.
Any other questions for Mr. Rhodes? All righty, well, that's all we have. I guess I'll entertain a motion. Or do you all have any other questions? I'm sorry. It looks like you're all considering.
I can make a motion. Madam Mayor,
Counselor Campbell,
I move that City Council approve the final plat as recommended by the Planning Commission.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion about this before we vote? Mr. Kesker, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Overholtzer,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Ms. Part,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Kesker. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Right, our next item is consideration of a final plat for Southview, sections 5 and 6. Ms. Beauregard.
Mr. Rhodes will handle this one as well.
Thank you. Old South Village and Southview is a planned residential development. It was initially approved in 2006 with a special use permit. Final plats have been approved over the years for various stages or sections of development of this. There's been 4 previously approved sections for 117 total lots to date. This is a request for final plat approval for sections 5 and 6. And section 5 has 36 lots and section 6 has 30. That would bring up the total at this time to 183. The master plan also shows a couple of additional sections. I think the total build out would be around 290. But tonight we're just talking about those 66 lots. Staff has reviewed the proposed plat and has determined it is in general conformance with the approved master plan and preliminary plat. Similar to Bells Creek, when this went before the Plan Commission, it was noted that a deed of easement for the public water, public sanitary sewer, and public storm easements, and a deed of dedication of right-of-way for the proposed streets was needed. In addition, the infrastructure had not been built, therefore it needed to either be built or bonded of a sufficient amount before this was placed on City Council's agenda. At the March 20th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting on a 4-0 vote, the Commission unanimously recommended City Council approve the final plat with the 2 conditions that those issues be resolved before it came before you, and those issues have been resolved. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes.
I do not see the developer in attendance. Once again, their surveyor is here if you had any technical questions about the plats.
Yeah, I would just, I'd like to just share, just to be on record. I know as you all are aware, we keep getting emails from the HOA with continued issues with
The
this
homeowners
subdivision.
association.
Yeah. And my understanding with speaking to the HOA relatively recently is there's still issues with drainage in the open space there between sections 3 and 4. This plat for sections 5 and 6 would establish 2 additional open spaces in the development. So I think many of us are concerned We just don't want to see these issues with drainage going forward. There's development notes related to the master plan that requires the developer to correct those drainage issues. They're even occurring on some of the newer homes that D.R. Horton has built within the past 12 to 18 months. So obviously, we're not going to get the answers tonight without a developer here. But it's something that I personally would like to continue to address, and I think there needs to be, I don't know, more effort between staff and the developer to try to come to a solution to make sure these homeowners are getting the community they deserve.
I share those concerns, and it seems as though we don't have technical or legal recourse at this point of this process. But I would like to ensure that we have good processes in place going forward so that this type of thing doesn't happen again. We don't see the homeowners dealing with the pain points that they have faced in Old South.
Are you saying you're not comfortable with making a vote this evening? Are you?
No, I don't think it's upon us to hold up the next two sections related to this issue, but we need to do something to make sure the current issue is addressed and that does not continue to happen on the remaining open space areas as this community continues to build out.
And will that be possible if council approves this evening?
Yet to be determined.
Is there an option to table this so that we can research it further and see if there's any recourse? That a shaking of the head?
I mean, the vote tonight is purely about whether the plat itself conforms with the city's subdivision ordinance. That's what's before you tonight.
At all of our written requirements. Yeah.
From what he just said, he
Yeah.
wants to make sure that
Yeah.
it's on record.
Right.
So
Are you
it's on
comfortable?
record.
Yeah.
Yeah. His concerns.
All right. No further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Edwards, I move that council approve the final plat as recommended by the planning commission.
Thank you, Counselor Woods. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other further discussion? Mr. Kesker, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Kesker. Moving on to item F. It is a consideration of an application for staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grant. Ms. Beauregard.
So Chief Ball is going to present this item tonight, but just to, during the budget process, there was a request to add additional firefighter position 6. And so after the budget was completed and approved, this opportunity came across to Chief Ball. And so we talked about it and realizing this isn't part of the budget necessarily, but we talked about him going ahead and presenting this. This is how they've been getting staff, frankly, for the past decade about. This is the last 6 that were added also came from a SAFER grant. And when I came to the city, that grant was wrapping up and that was when the city had to fully absorb it. And it was around 21 or 22, I think. What year was it?
Got the grant in 18, should have been
Okay.
21.
Yeah. So that's when we fully absorbed those positions. So this is another example that's like that, but I'll let Chief Ball walk through this. He has a presentation to share and I'll just let folks know that you don't see it on Zoom, but we will definitely post this on City Council's website under presentation. So we apologize. Zoom is acting out tonight. So we can't show the PowerPoint, but this will be posted tomorrow on the City Council's webpage under the agendas. So, okay, thank you. Go ahead, Chief Ball.
Thank you. Leslie, give a brief rundown of it. This has been a fairly quick process. This opened on May 23rd and it is due on July 3rd. We want to jump on this because we're not sure that it'll be there next year or the years to come. So the SAFER grant is to assist fire departments in increasing their numbers. And it's over a 3-year period on the financial side. The first and second year, the federal government helps you on, gives you 75% of the eligible salaries and benefits. Year 3 is a 35%, and then year 4, you must keep those at the 100%. You have to keep those for year 4. After that, it's up to the locality, but that's one of the rules of the program. You must keep them through the 4 years. So currently we have 36 in the department, 11 per shift, and then 3 admin positions. So if you remember last year when I took over interim, we had to drop staffing. Our minimum was 11 and we dropped to 10 because folks were not able to get their time off. And it was a big issue with everyone, a big morale issue. Once we did that, people were able to get their time off. And things have worked a lot better. We've taken on a couple more part-timers, which has made it even better for people. So adding those 2 back per shift, 2 per shift would get us back to the 11 that we were last year at this time. And then it would also guarantee that 2 spots would be guaranteed off. So the folks that put in for vacation last July or 6 months ago, they're assured that the money they've invested is now, they are able to go. Prior to, they were not. So that's one thing. And then the next is the 1710 standard. I know that doesn't ring a bell with you, but the NFPA 1710 standard for a career department with an aerial device is to have 17 staff positions on scene within 8 minutes, 90% of the time. So we feel we can do this. If we get 12 people on duty. When we dropped staffing last year, we went to the automatic aid initially with the county. They are now a minimum of 4. That puts us at 16. And then Brian Perry or I get there, that makes 17. So FEMA goes from on their percentage on the SAFER grant, it's 1 to 19% of the time is the lowest. And then I feel like we can jump to the next grade, jump 2 grades on FEMA scaling to 70 to 90% of the time that we're meeting the NFPA 1710 standard. As I said, it increased the ability to get the folks their time off, parental leave, short-term disability, the workman's comp, the general leave, their holidays and such.
Chief Ball, where do we fall now on that standard?
We
Within
are,
8?
for the last 3 years, the average is 3.22% of the time that we are meeting the NFPA 1710 standard. So it will also help us maintain our ISO rating. We're a level 2 ISO rating of 2 right now, which also affects your homeowner's insurance. The higher the number, the higher the insurance cost. So if we keeping the staffing, even increasing it, gives us more points when it's time for our ISO review, which should be coming up very soon. So the next, I'm going to turn to Jesse for this, for the financial portion of it.
The next few slides will walk you through what the local costs will be to the city. Year 1, the grant covers 75% of the eligible salaries and benefits. There is some one-time cost for gear of about $37,000 and uniforms about $4,500. So the locality would need approximately $191,000 in year 1, which is FY26. As you know, that's the budget that we just approved. We should have carryover funds that would cover the FY26 costs if this is something that you want to proceed with. Year two, which is going to be FY 27, the locality cost is 172,000 because you don't have those one-time cost in there for the uniforms and the gear. Year three, the grant drops down from 75% to 35%. The locality has to be in a position to cover about $387,000 of the local cost at that time. And then year four, we have to be about 578,000 to cover. That's the local cost going forward without any additional COLAs, but beyond that point. Did you have any questions about the local cost?
Yeah, I don't have any questions about the local cost per se, but it actually does. It's a how did this how did you go about getting this the times before? Ms. Beauregard said that you've used this grant before and was successful getting it. And how did you earmark funds to pay for those new staff people? Did I understand that you said you've
Yeah.
used it?
Yeah, they received a grant, as Chief Ball said, in 2018.
Mhm.
And then the city was fully funding that by 21, fiscal year
Sorry.
21.
Then I'd miss it.
I mean, I wasn't around when they
Mhm.
received the grant initially, and neither was Jesse. So I'm not sure we could say how they kind of earmarked those funds initially. By the time we came, they were working it into the budget.
Right.
Because they were already working something
Right,
into
of
the
course.
budget, and it was
Oh,
just
yeah.
increasing, but I'm not positive I know how they initially did that
Mhm.
back in 2018.
Yeah, I don't know. That was before I was CFO, but the
Right.
grant is structured to allow you kind of to ease into it
Yeah,
a little bit.
I see that.
So I can't tell you for sure where the revenue would come from. We have property tax rates that we could increase. We could work it naturally into our budget through real estate taxes, through new construction. Like I said, we could cover the first year with the FY 25 carryover funds. We could also possibly earmark FY 27s with that same carryover money. So we could fund the first 2 years with carryover money, but that's going to be one-time money. So in 28 and 29, we have to be prepared that it will be worked into our operating budget.
Isn't carryover money typically used to help fund the capital improvement plan?
Yes, it is.
So are we borrowing from Peter to pay Paul here?
You have the discretion to use it how you want. It is for capital. That is the primary purpose. But you could
Concerns
use
me,
it
we
for other
raised the
purposes.
property taxes 2 cents to help fund overwhelming capital needs, and that didn't even come close to covering all the unfunded needs. And so it concerns me to take away from that. And we don't have any scenarios, any sort of specifics about how we'd pay for this.
No.
I just was going back to the budget presentations from the spring. And under public safety, the 6 new positions for the fire department were $452,000. So what's the $100,000 jump between now and?
So the grant required you to put in the starting salary, and if we went with the entry-level firefighter, we would kind of back ourselves into a corner. And so we went with the advanced firefighter base pay of 55,000, knowing that we probably will not be able to find 6 advanced firefighters. But we did not want to enter the starting pay for the grant at our base level. So we chose the one in the middle. The base would be 50.
That's
Yeah.
forward.
I definitely don't like hearing about morale going down because you lost positions and folks weren't getting the time off. And I remember you're saying this during budget season, but seeing it and hearing it right now during this discussion, I definitely see a bigger picture. I'm concerned about budgeting 577,000 in a future budget and identifying that. I mean, we voted to raise, as Councilor Oberholzer said, voted to raise the tax rate specifically because we had a wharf to pay for and an infrastructure fund to put money into. Having said that, I certainly want to ensure that our public safety agency and staff have what they need.
There an opportunity to consider 4? Would that get you Improvement, not all the way to what you need,
It would have to be a minimum of 3.
minimum of 3.
Yeah, 1 per shift.
I mean, I love the idea of,
Mhm.
obviously, we've all
Yeah.
discussed about going after grants to help offset the local costs. It's just,
Yeah, I mean, if we need firefighters, then going through this grant process would be the way to go. I mean, you
And-
can't do it.
It's a very competitive process. I mean, applying is one thing and getting it is
Yeah.
another. But
Right.
I've got letters of support from Senators Kane and Warner and Delegate Campbell,
Mhm.
hoping that will help a little bit.
Hope so.
I looked up the 2018. I found the agenda amendment. It looks like the timing that was different. It was in February, so it probably worked it
Yeah,
into the
into
budget
the
that next
budget.
year, I bet, because
Yeah.
it was just earlier in the year. So
Yeah.
it doesn't say that explicitly, but I bet because of the timing, that's what they did. So this just happens to be after the budget was adopted, which is kind of, making this a little bit of a harder decision, a more difficult decision because of that.
Because essentially we're binding future councils into a budget decision.
Well, that's what this did too.
Yeah, and that's what this is do.
Right.
Yeah, you're making
That is-
decisions for future councils.
So Chief Ball, you did kind of answer the question about
Mhm.
3? Would that,
Yes, we would have to go back and within 4 days and get some numbers taken care of.
She
But,
could get that done this evening on sitting on her
she's
recliner.
good.
She's
yeah.
good.
But as you see the financial situation of the city and the numbers here is huge.
Yes.
Um,
No, we have many unknowns. We just didn't know when this
Would you be-
grant would
uh-huh.
come along again.
Yeah,
or
of course. Do
could
you
it
think
go
you'd be more competitive at 3? Would you have more of a chance, given that it would be a smaller grant perhaps?
I
Or you
cannot
just
say
have no idea?
I cannot say for sure. Over the last 3 years, the localities in Virginia that have got them, Alma's got it twice, Lynchburg, Chesapeake, Suffolk, Manassas Park, and Richmond. That's over the last 3 years. Those are the only ones in the state.
Bessie, do you know anything that's like coming over the next 4 years where we will have kind of more of an influx? Money that could be put towards us, like earmarked towards us?
It's really hard to make budget choices
Yeah.
right
Just
after
didn't
we
know
sign
if
the
Hey,
Say
don't
budget.
make her make any promises about anything.
I
This-
would love
I
to
mean,
say
this
the
isn't a
crossing, but that's
discussion.
yet to
This is an
happen.
actual vote. This is a vote on a budget decision.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot of one-time expenditures in our budget, like equipment and things, just because we can't afford to put it in our operating budget. So there's nothing in there that is dropping off next year, let's just say that. It's mostly labor and benefits and utilities and supplies and things like that, so not many one-time expenditures in our operating budget.
And I'm sorry, what did you say was the deadline for this grant? I know you,
July 3rd.
July 3rd. Okay. How are y'all feeling? We would have to vote on this in council then, obviously.
Well, the vote is just to authorize
Mhm.
staff to submit the application, right? In essence, you're
Yeah.
also authorizing a budget.
Yeah.
But we won't know that until we receive the grant, and then we will come back later and the dollars, they will be appropriated the grant at some
That's when
point
you
if
find
the
out.
grant is received. So then there would be some decisions made at that point about the local dollars that are required.
The awards are from August 18th to September 30th. So the last one will be announced September 30th.
You make a good point that these funds might not be there. And considering we need employees, we need firefighters. They're down to 10 each shift. Is 11 sort of a best practice for a shift, or you feel like you can meet your goals with that staffing?
With 11, I can keep 4 on each engine and 1 on the ladder truck at all times.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with 3. I mean, during the budget discussions, we were looking for opportunities to get at least 3 out of the 6 requests during then. So I'm fully comfortable with 3. It's just a big price tag at 6 with unknowns.
It would come to us, and I mean, honestly, we'd be facing it again and the next budget. And then the one after that, and then, because we'd have to get to this point, it's, like staffing, it's like school staffing. You always have to be adding teachers to keep up with the ratios.
And I think that's also, but like, the other one, the last time we did this, it aligned with the budget. So that's, again, I'm comfortable with 3 because we had previously discussed it as how can we get to 3 with the budget? So I feel like that was part of the budget discussions.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you for looking back at that information. Appreciate it.
But this is the first time I've heard the specific explanation of the benefits, and I
Mhm.
appreciate that. It
Yeah.
helps conform to the national standard. Well, there are 2 standards, it sounds like, and one, the ISO, actually affects homeowner insurance rates. So
Yes.
that's significant. I appreciate hearing that. I'd like to have heard it a lot sooner during the regular budget discussion, but
Learn something every day. So thank you. So would we give guidance on perhaps asking Jesse to run the 3, but then approving the,
If you want to approve,
Approving the
authorize staff to
authorization.
apply for the grant
Mhm.
with a maximum of application for 3 additional FTEs. I kind of looked over at John.
Are we looking
Sounds
at John?
good.
Mr. Blair.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
well, I mean, it's an authorization.
Yeah,
It's an authorization, and then we can,
I mean, ultimately, if you are awarded the grant, I'm going to assume there's still an opportunity to reject the grant. And that would be fairly
of course.
awkward, but I don't think
Yes.
that it would still be handcuffs, so to speak.
Exactly.
So,
the financial commitment would be exactly half then with 3 positions versus
yes,
6.
all you would do is divide that number by
I think we can run the
half.
numbers. And
Yeah.
I will mention that in the year 1, since that budget's already approved, we would have to use the carryover funds for this. Now, it's not going to be as much as the number I have there because if this grant is not approved until September, and then we don't hire until like the next month and they start like November.
It's a 180-day recruitment period.
So that will drastically reduce that FY 26 number if we don't get them hired until January. That will cut that in half. So we'll need $100,000 of carryover money. And in the following year, I'd say about $90,000. Well, no,
Well-
that one wouldn't change.
Yeah, because you'd have to account for 6 months of the
Yes.
fiscal year.
So never mind that one.
Yeah.
But that would be half because we only have 3 firefighters instead of 6 if we went that route. So. So it's about 90,000 that we would have to work into the FY 27 budget. If we went with 3 versus, and that's assuming, that's the higher rate at the advanced firefighter versus basic. Just because we had to give them a starting rate.
Right. Thank you. Then, if there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Counselor Campbell.
I move that City Council authorize staff to apply for the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant as discussed and amended by council from 6 positions to 3 positions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Kesker, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Chief Ball.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the firefighters who came this evening. Righty. Item G. We are going to get an update and hear a discussion of Staunton Crossings water tank painted design. Ms. Beauregard.
So Lyle Hart, city engineer, will start this item, but if you haven't noticed, there's a large something or other going up around Staunton Crossing that you've seen from a lot of different areas of the city and the county. So this was actually in front of the EDA this morning. And Mr. Hart gave the same presentation, and we'll be walking you through that and showing you renderings of the tank and kind of explaining how we got there. But they were very excited. They voted unanimously to approve the design and they really liked it a lot. So I'm going to let Lyle take it from here. And then we also have Economic Development, Ms. DeMayo and Ms. Blythe here to answer any questions as well. Thank you, Lyle.
Thanks, Leslie. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So as Leslie mentioned, there is something rising up on the horizon on the east side of town, in case you haven't noticed. Of course, that is the elevated water storage tank. And actually what you see is the concrete pedestal for that. And so here is just out of the shop drawings from CB&I, Chicago Bridge and Iron, the tank manufacturer. And so just a little bit of background, so kind of we know what we're looking at. The tank that's being built out there is actually called a composite style tank. Composite meaning that it's made of more than one material. And so the bottom section there is concrete, reinforced concrete, which is basically a shell or a cylinder, and that supports the steel bowl or the actual water storage tank on top. And so you can see here, there's the lines up there at the top actually are the steel panels. And so that'll be constructed, the steel panels will be constructed on the ground, kind of around the base, and then it'll be hoisted up into the air. And you might not be able to see the dimensions on there, but from the base to the top is roughly 240 feet. So it's a very tall tank. And in addition to that, of course, it's on top of a hill. So it's going to be very visible, probably one of the higher, if not one of the highest tanks in Virginia. And the reason is that height is so that it will match the hydraulic grade line for our gravity zone water distribution system, which is based on the Clearwell elevation up at Public Works at the water treatment plant, which is kind of diametrically opposite side of town on the northwest side of town. And the diameter of that upper tank there, or the tank itself is 70 feet. Of course, with any steel product, it needs to be coated for protection, particularly one that's going to store drinking water. And this is another drawing. The highlighted area basically represents the area that would be, we'll say, a canvas for our any graphic design that we would put on there. It's a cylindrical, again, kind of the round part of the tank, excluding the dome at the top or the cone-shaped part underneath. So about 220 feet in circumference by about 27 feet tall would be the canvas. We'll call it a canvas, but again, it's a steel, coated steel. Here's a recent photo of the tank from the base that was close to the top. The blue form at the top since been removed because they've again completed the concrete pedestal now. And as I mentioned, this can already be seen from various places throughout the area. I can see it from Mint Spring, you can see it from Fishersville, certainly from the eastern part of the city on Richmond Avenue, as well as from a fair amount of hilltops going north. This is from the new roundabout at Staunton Crossing. And this is actually from Bell's Lane in the northern part of the city. So since this is obviously a great opportunity for us to display the growth and the city's heritage, we thought, hey, what can we do to enhance that visibility? And so we've been working with a local graphic designer, Queen City Creative, as well as the tank manufacturer and their sub-consultant painter and their graphic designer. And we have arrived at a graphic that we think is very suitable for this location and for the city of Staunton. And so this is the proposed graphic here. Of course, you can see the downtown skyline with the Blue Ridge Mountains in the background, and very legible and bold letters for Staunton there near the top. And in this rendering shows that the letters are about 7 feet tall, as shown, and there actually is no intention to have anyone standing on top of the tank, in case anybody's wondering, but gives a little bit of perspective. Now, the image is designed so that it would be repeating or kind of a wraparound, a three-peat. And so this is the dimensions for that. Again, the 220 feet long total. And so to get a better idea, especially since the pedestal is already there, we're able to have the image superimposed on some recent photographs. So this would be, as you enter I-81 from the northbound I-81 ramp at exit 222, you can see the tank. This is once you get on the interstate. Of course, there's the I-81 widening construction going on there in the median. This would be the southbound view of the tank. And then even from Richmond Avenue as you're heading east out of town. I mentioned the wraparound, so the configuration of where that would be. If you can see that white dot is the approximate location of the tank. So it seems like it would be best to have one image visible from the kind of the southbound traffic, another from northbound, another, of course, they're all 120 degrees apart at 360 degrees in a circle. And so that's how that's being proposed. And so we're excited about the design. As Leslie mentioned, the EDA seems excited about it as well this morning. So that's where we're at, and just be glad to take any questions.
I mean, I have questions because I was hoping, and we had discussed before about maybe getting more community feedback on this. We have so many amazing creative people in Stanton. And I think this would be a great opportunity to kind of bring people into the fold. So I guess I just am surprised because I thought that might be an option. I think the design is great. It feels very familiar to me. So I like it. But I was just surprised that it's moving so fast, I guess.
Yeah, I thought coming out of our retreat, we were gonna consider this again instead of presenting this what it is what it is. I like the design. My only concern, and I shared this at the retreat, was the only road you're gonna be close enough to distinguish what the detail is 81, and you're gonna be moving too fast to even, I'm just afraid you're not gonna be able to tell what the skyline is.
So if I can say something about the comment, Ms. Park. So I know that was brought up at the retreat, and Josh and I met with Ms. Park a few months after that and talked through that idea some more. And given that this is a very complex thing, is putting something on a water tank to make sure you can see it. It's in our business park. It deserves a kind of a level of representation that, we understand the desire to do something with the community. We believe there were other options to do that, though, and not necessarily this option, but there are other opportunities to do that. And so we're happy to kind of approach this in a way that there are other opportunities to embrace the community on other ways as far as designing and art. And we've talked about maybe doing something down at the wharf, for instance, and we're looking at downtown, and so in other areas of the city. So, and that's why we kind of went back to this approach. And I know that maybe, Ms. DeMayo can talk about it from an economic development standpoint as well. Sorry to put you on the spot, but.
And also a branding standpoint, because I wonder how whether when I think of Staunton, or when I think of branding, I think of all like sort of the same logo and same imagery on everything. And since it is so different from our logo, I wonder how that works.
No, I will say,
Mhm.
appreciate that about the
Mhm.
branding. However, as you've probably seen, a lot of times branding changes. You go
Yeah.
through rebrandings, as
Mhm.
this is an image that's going to be for 25 years. Kind of wanted to keep something that would be consistent, which Stanton is what we are. Also, because these are state funds, there were certain criteria that we had to be aware of with the state and get their sort of check off on things and make sure that it also would not violate any kind of signage provisions that we have as well. So there's a lot of things we had to take into consideration for this.
No, it's beautiful. It's lovely.
Ones that we
Yeah, that
saw
was one
at-
of that you showed us back in at the retreat. It is lovely.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk, I just guess I didn't realize it was like, oh, here, this is going to be the one, and that's it.
Well, a lot of things were happening really fast with this too. We're
Mhm,
trying
yeah,
to get information from the state. We're getting information from. Yeah,
Can
go
I
ahead.
also address that? Because that
Yeah.
was brought up in some of our meetings with the state, and they would not let us do that. They understood that idea. They suggested maybe for a mural, but not for this business park piece.
Mhm.
So that they did not approve that, unfortunately.
And this was funded through state money, is that correct? Our water tower. Any other comments or questions for
Yeah.
Mr. Mayo
I
or
mean,
Mr.
in
Hart?
terms of sort of branding consistency, my one thought is uh, the word Stanton in our standard logo, it has that special treatment for the U, the U is silent. So it would have been nice to incorporate something like that. But there are challenges with something that's at the top of a 40-foot water tower, the visibility and legibility.
Yeah,
So there are special constraints on this project and the state requirements. And so I think the word Stanton will be nice and
yeah,
visible
definitely. It does
and
stand
and
out.
legible.
Thank you all so much for your work on this.
Thank you.
It's going to be exciting to see it finally up in the air.
I agree.
Well, this just takes us to matters from the city manager. Any manager?
I'm looking for him. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I had
I
them
was
up.
like, wait a minute, did I
Yeah,
miss
yeah, I'm
something?
here. No, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So July 4th is next Friday. Let me talk quickly about city schedules. City offices and facilities are closed on July 4th. And just be aware that traffic and activities around Gypsy Hill Park will be impacted by Happy Birthday America. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But just a reminder, if you have your trash picked up on Friday, it will be picked up on Wednesday. So please put it out early. I want to make sure I got that right. Yes, it will be on Wednesday, it will be July 9th. It's going to be after. See, this is why I have to read this carefully. So if you have pickup on Friday, July 4th, it will be collected on Wednesday, July 2nd. Sorry, I'll get this straight. It's on our website, on Facebook. Okay, downtown business district trash collection will be Wednesday, July 2nd and the 3rd. No pickup on Friday, normal trash collection on Saturday, the 5th. Recycling center closed Friday, the 4th, open on the 5th. Library is closed on the 4th, and of course, all offices are closed. And Gypsy Hill Park Pool will be closed on July 4th, but the Montgomery Hall Park Pool will be open regular hours. Happy Birthday America, of course, is at Gypsy Hill Park that weekend, so please be careful with traffic. Also, they are still looking for parade volunteers. And if you want to volunteer for the parade on July 4th, you would be needed around 6:45 a.m. You need to be at least, that sounds really early. You need to be at least 18 years old. And if you are interested, you can go on their Facebook page, Happy Birthday America, and get more information about that opportunity. And I think the only other thing I have is, on Monday, July 14th, there is a meeting, Stanton's Flood Resiliency Plan. We're developing a plan. Ms. Hughes reported on that at the last meeting. That will be at Stanton Public Library, Monday, July 14th at 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. So please come and learn about Stanton's Flood Resiliency Plan. And that is all I have this evening. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Blair.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just when you all were discussing the SAFER grant, what I was looking at,
Okay.
and just to give you a potential, given the discussion, a potential, what would I say, policy discretion. I was curious about subject to appropriation, because you had mentioned this idea of, well, we're making decisions for future councils. Traditionally, in Virginia, one council may not bind the appropriating authority of a future council. And I was looking to see if there was an exception. There's one that potentially could, but what we will do if we win the grant, I think we'll bring it back and potentially try to talk to the federal authorities about that appropriation. Because again, they're legally, you cannot bind a future council. So we'll have to look at that language about appropriation.
And yet that's part of the point of the grant, that they often do
It
that to sort of
is.
say, look, we'll help you get the first step, but then you got to commit long term.
Yeah.
There are strings, there are always strings attached.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
have to, you know.
Yeah. But that's, I just wanted to give you a more fulsome answer. That's
Thank
what I
you.
was trying to
Thank you.
look up
Yeah.
about, like, can
Right,
you
you don't want-
truly say to a future council,
Right.
you have to
Yeah,
appropriate this money?
right. Thank you for looking into that, Mr. Blair. All righty, we're moving on to matters from the public. We now come to the time in City Council called Matters from the Public, and I will now read the rules. It is a time that council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about a wide variety of subjects. A copy of the Staunton City Council's Matters from the Public rules are available in paper form at the clerk's desk and online on the Staunton City's website. You are asked to familiarize yourself with those rules before commenting. Please come to the podium or begin your call, identify yourself, and complete your remarks within 5 minutes. As a reminder, this is a time for council to listen. If you would like an answer to a question or a follow-up to your comment, please speak with the city manager, Leslie Beauregard, after the meeting. Good evening.
Hello.
Welcome. How are
Thank
you,
you.
Ms. Connors?
Good. Cindy Connors, 106A Skyline Avenue. I came with good news. I know it's been a little while, but you didn't have your first meeting this month. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the results of the letter carrier food drive.
Wonderful.
We partnered with Waynesboro, Charlottesville, and Harrisonburg. Waynesboro tripled their
Oh,
collection
my word.
this year. And both Charlottesville and Harrisonburg saw significant increases. As far as Staunton goes, we collected 15,757 pounds of physical food. And then when you add the cash donations of many generous donors, that we get credit for 55,861 pounds. I just,
Wow.
um,
That's 55,000?
yeah, and that's up 16,000 pounds from last year.
From last year.
So,
Oh, my gosh.
and that's thanks to all of you. And the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, they get food from all the way from letter carriers, all the way from Winchester to Lexington. And so that we collected 90,748 pounds for the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. And then we also did donate to some smaller pantries. In addition, that's 88,892 meals.
Wow.
So that's awesome. And nationwide, 48,569,651 pounds. And that's up 4 million pounds from last year. So everybody's gotten on the bandwagon, and I'm building up to the fact that we've worked really hard this year on this drive and the increase and the friendly competition. And unfortunately, Staunton was unseated for first place.
Oh, but that's okay.
But we are second place
All
in the
right.
nation this year.
Second in the nation.
The
like,
nation, so-
Second in the nation.
Yeah,
for
we're
collecting
willing
food.
to share that position, because that means that this friendly competition
Yeah.
is working. So thank you to all
Wow.
of you that help us make it
Thank
happen.
you. Thank you. That is wonderful news. Well, that is really just neighbors looking after each other, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful way to possibly end this meeting. Mr. Kessiker, do we have any hands raised?
We have no hands raised on Zoom.
Would anyone try to top Ms. Connors? I will now call this meeting of Staunton City Council adjourned. Righty.
See you in a month.
Yes, I know.